Hello everyone, I'm Chris, and this is everything you need to know before watching She-Hulk Attorney at Law, releasing August 17th. Real quick, if you're watching this video and you haven't yet subscribed, make sure to click that subscribe button and click the bell to know anytime we upload a new video. After over a decade of only one Hulk being a part of the MCU, Marvel Studios will be adding lawyer Jennifer Walters, aka She-Hulk, played by Tatiana Maslany, into the fold. Although She-Hulk's new Disney Plus series will be the character's franchise debut, there's still quite a bit you'll need to know before watching, since the show will heavily feature Mark Ruffalo's Hulk and his previous villains. We'll leave a list of Hulk-related MCU projects in the description below if you haven't seen some or any of them yet. But if you have seen them and are just looking for a quick refresher, then you've come to the right place. We're first introduced to Dr. Bruce Banner in 2008 after he'd been commissioned by General Thaddeus Ross to create a serum to enhance human performance. But during the experiment, Banner was exposed to dangerous levels of gamma radiation, which in turn caused him to transform into a giant rage-fueled green monster known as the Hulk when he's angered, provoked, or excited. During his first transformation into the Hulk, he had attacked General Ross and hospitalized his lover Betty Ross, Thaddeus Ross's daughter. So he was made a fugitive of the US Army and was forced to go on the run for years, during which he began living in Brazil and working at a soft drink bottling factory. He eventually gets tracked down by Ross though after getting a cut while on the job and accidentally dripping blood into one of the bottled drinks, causing the death of an elderly man who drank from it. And so Ross sends an attack team led by British Special Ops Commander Emil Blonsky to capture Banner. But the attack just causes him to transform into the Hulk for the first time in 158 days. He easily takes out Blonsky's team before escaping, and Blonsky is left shocked and confused by what he just witnessed. So Ross explains to him what happened with Banner, and that although Banner's experiment failed, he still had a team continuing research on this super soldier serum, with them even creating one that looks very promising, leading Blonsky to volunteer to receive a small dose. Meanwhile, Bruce traveled back to the US and reunited with Betty, who allowed him to stay at her house for the night. But as he's leaving the next day, he's again ambushed by an attack team led by Blonsky, whose speed, strength, and agility has noticeably increased. The attack once again causes him to transform into the Hulk, and he proves to still be too much for them to handle, including Blonsky, who he nearly kills with a single kick. Betty is also nearly killed after entering the strike zone, but Hulk saves her from the explosion and escapes with her in his arms. After reverting back into Bruce, he and Betty head to New York to meet with Mr. Blue, the online alias of cellular biologist Dr. Samuel Stearns, who Bruce had been contacting throughout his time on the run in an attempt to rid himself of the Hulk, and who claims to have invented a potential antidote. They test the antidote and it actually works, but they're unsure if it rid him of the Hulk permanently or if it only reversed the one individual transformation, since Stearns' previous tests, which he ran by synthesizing blood Banner had sent him into a large supply, were inconclusive. Upon learning Stearns has a supply of his blood, Banner orders for it all to be incinerated so that no one can try and weaponize it. But before they can do anything, Banner's shot with a tranquilizer. As Banner is being arrested and escorted onto a helicopter, Blonsky, who had healed completely from his encounter with the Hulk, holds Stearns at gunpoint and forces him to inject him with a sample of Banner's blood, transforming him into Abomination. After knocking Stearns into a sample of Banner's blood, Abomination goes on a rampage throughout Harlem, leading Ross to let Banner go to battle the monster. And the brawl eventually comes to an end when Hulk nearly strangles him to death with a chain, but he's convinced not to kill him by Betty. So Hulk goes on the run once again, while Abomination is sent to the Raft, an underwater prison created for enhanced individuals. We don't see Dr. Banner again until 2012 when he's met by Natasha Romanoff, an expert spy and assassin also known as Black Widow, who's come on behalf of the Strategic Homeland and Intervention Enforcement and Logistics Division, aka SHIELD, seeking his help in locating an extremely powerful device that can open doorways into space called the Tesseract, that had recently been stolen by the god of mischief Loki Laufeyson, the adopted son of Odin, king of Asgard, one of the 9 regions of space. Banner's initially hesitant to accept the job, believing SHIELD might be wanting to use him as a weapon, but he eventually agrees and heads to the SHIELD helicarrier, where he's met by Nick Fury, the director of SHIELD, as well as Tony Stark, aka Iron Man, Steve Rogers, aka Captain America, and Loki's brother Thor Odin's son, who's come to Earth to retrieve the Tesseract and bring Loki back to Asgard, and who also informs them that Loki plans on using the Tesseract to open a portal into space and brings a sentient species of cybernetically enhanced beings known as the Chitauri Army to Earth. Banner, with the help of Stark, is eventually able to locate the Tesseract, but just as they do, there's a sudden explosion caused by agents of SHIELD Loki had enslaved using a scepter, and the attack causes Banner to transform into the Hulk and chase after Romanoff until Thor intervenes and attempts to battle the monster. Hulk gains the upper hand in the brawl though, so Fury sends a fighter jet to prevent Hulk from completely destroying the helicarrier, but the jet is quickly destroyed when Hulk leaps out of the aircraft and tears it apart until he crashes to the ground below and transforms back into Banner. He eventually reunites with the other heroes, although only after Loki had already allowed the Chitauri to enter Earth through a wormhole.
Dr. Banner, now might be a really good time for you to get angry.
That's my secret, Cap. I'm always angry.
And now, with the Hulk firmly on their side, the Avengers assemble together to fight off Loki and his army. But Nick Fury's superiors don't believe the Avengers will be enough to stop them, so they send a nuclear missile towards Midtown Manhattan. Fury warns Stark about the incoming missile, and he intercepts it and flies up with it into the wormhole, before sending it straight into the Chitauri mothership, which disables their army. But this causes Stark's suit to shut down, and he falls uncontrollably back through the wormhole, just as Romanoff closes it. But luckily, Hulk catches him as he falls, and each of the Avengers survive the Battle of New York. The group then go their separate ways, with Thor taking the Tesseract and Loki back to Asgard, but they join back up 3 years later to track down and eliminate the remaining members of Hydra, a neo-Nazi terrorist group originally formed during World War II, who've gained possession of Loki's scepter and have been conducting experiments with it. They managed to capture Baron Wolfgang von Strucker, the man behind the experiments, and Iron Man finds the scepter. But just as he goes to collect it, a vision is implanted into his mind by Wanda Maximoff, a mutant that had survived Strucker's experiments, along with her twin brother Pietro, with her gaining the ability to manipulate psychic energy and him gaining superhuman speed. The projected vision shows Stark standing amongst the ruins of Earth, where he finds the rest of the Avengers dead following a fatal attack from the Chitauri army before he snaps back to reality. The Maximoffs then allow him to retrieve the scepter, believing his fear will lead to his own undoing, and this nearly comes to fruition when, after discovering a net of neurons within the scepter that could be reconfigured into artificial intelligence, Stark looks to use it to create a peacekeeping program named Ultron to act as a metaphorical suit of armor around the world. He asks Banner to help him in doing so, and he agrees, believing if it worked, it could potentially allow him freedom from having to transform into the Hulk. The two work over the next 3 days, but have minimal success, and decide to put their work on hold to celebrate their victory against Hydra with the rest of the Avengers. During the party, Bruce gets to talking with Natasha, who's been crucial in helping him calm down after his Hulk transformations, and it appears the two share intimate interest in one another. Cap recognizes their interest in one another as well, and pushes Bruce to go for it, claiming he and Natasha both deserve a win. Meanwhile, with the heroes distracted at their party, Ultron suddenly activates, and upon accessing the internet, determines the greatest threat to peace on Earth is humanity itself, and that they must be eliminated. Ultron then gains control over Stark's Iron Legion, and uses them to attack the Avengers. And although most of the Iron Legion is destroyed, one drone escapes with the scepter, and heads to Strucker's Hydra base, where Ultron uses their technology to begin building an army of robotic drones, as well as his body of armor. Later, Ultron manages to recruit the Maximoff twins, as they share disdain for Stark since their parents had been killed by one of Stark Industries' bombs, and travels with them to South Africa to acquire vibranium, a nearly indestructible Wakandan metal from arms dealer Ulysses Claw. But the Avengers track them down, and a battle ensues, during which Wanda distracts the heroes by implanting visions into the minds of Black Widow, Cap, Thor, and lastly Banner, who had stayed back in the Avengers Quinjet to prevent a transformation into the Hulk. But whatever vision Wanda shows him causes him to become the Hulk and lose control, as he wreaks havoc on the city of Johannesburg. He's soon met by Iron Man, now suited up in his Hulkbuster armor, and although Hulk has full control in their brawl, Iron Man's eventually able to incapacitate him by dropping an entire building on him. The Avengers then go into hiding at the home of Clint Barton, the 6th original Avenger known as Hawkeye, following the destruction caused by their battle, although without Thor, who instead heads to the Water of Sight in an attempt to find the meaning behind his vision from earlier, in which he saw 6 gem-like objects. While at Barton's, Natasha and Bruce discuss the possibility of a relationship, but he doesn't think it could work after the real Hulk was just showcased to the world, so he plans on running away, but Natasha claims there's nothing keeping her here either, and the two instead plan on running away together once they defeat Ultron. Meanwhile, Ultron, Wanda, and Pietro head to Dr. Helen Cho's laboratory, who we saw earlier use her regeneration cradle, a piece of medical technology that can be used to create synthetic tissue to heal a wound sustained by Clint Barton during their battle with Strucker's men. And Ultron uses the scepter to take control of her mind and orders her to create a powerful synthetic body using the vibranium samples and the scepter as its power source. Once the body's created, Ultron begins transferring his consciousness into it, which in turn allows Wanda to look into his mind, and within it she discovers Ultron's plan to destroy all of humanity. Now realizing they'd been fighting on the wrong side, Wanda releases Cho from the scepter's control, before leaving the lab with Pietro. The Avengers then arrive at the lab soon after, just as Ultron begins to make his escape with the cradle, and eventually the heroes manage to fight off Ultron's bots and retrieve the cradle, before taking it to Avengers Tower. In an attempt to rectify their mistake with Ultron, Stark and Banner begin to upload Stark's advanced AI system Jarvis into the synthetic body instead, and the upload is completed when Thor returns and uses the power of thunder to create Vision. While at the Water of Sight, Thor learned that the 6 stones he saw in his vision were the 6 immensely powerful Infinity Stones, with the Mind Stone having been inside the scepter and is now embedded into the forehead of Vision. Upon awakening, Vision proves himself to be on the side of humanity, so the Avengers head to Sokovia where they battle Ultron and his army. Banner originally doesn't want to take part in their battle, but Natasha forces him to transform into the Hulk after giving him a kiss and pushing him off a cliff. And with Hulk joining the battle, the Avengers are able to destroy Ultron and his army. But on their way to victory, Hulk had entered the Avengers Quinjet, which had been stolen by Ultron, who he promptly tossed out of it. And now that they've won, Nat video calls him, attempting to help him turn the ship around. But Hulk instead suddenly ends the call and flies out of Earth's atmosphere alone. He travels throughout space until he eventually lands on Sakaar, a planet surrounded by numerous wormholes that deposit space waste, ruled by the Grandmaster, who hosts a gladiatorial contest called the Contest of Champions. And after encountering the Hulk, he had the monster take part in the contest, and eventually Hulk became the Grandmaster's champion. This went on for about 2 years, until Hulk surprisingly pitted against his fellow Avenger Thor, who had also crash landed on Sakaar after being sent through a wormhole by his sister Hela, the goddess of death, as she looked to take over the kingdom of Asgard following the passing of their father Odin. After landing on Sakaar, Thor was captured by a scrapper named Valkyrie with the use of an obedience disc that electrocuted and incapacitated him, and she then sold him to the Grandmaster to contend against his champion, with the reward of freedom if he's victorious. Thor is glad to see Hulk, but Hulk doesn't appear to share his excitement, especially after he calls him Banner, so Hulk attacks him. The two battle and eventually Hulk gets the upper hand, but just as it appears he might kill Thor, Thor has a sudden surge of his powers and gains control of the fight. The Grandmaster doesn't give him the chance to win though, and effectively wins Hulk the fight by shocking Thor with the disc in his neck. Thor later awakens in Hulk's room while he's taking a bath and tries convincing Hulk to join him in returning to Asgard to stop Hela, and in return he'll help him get back to Earth. But Hulk claims Earth hates him, so he declines his offer. He does however agree to help Thor escape by getting a hold of the remote connected to the disc in his neck from Valkyrie, who's also a friend of Hulk's and usually helps him train. Thor attempts to recruit her in his mission as well, with her having been revealed earlier to be one of the last surviving Asgardian Valkyrie, who were almost entirely killed by Hela years ago. But she also declines to help, so Thor heads over to the Avengers Quinjet alone, but just as he gets it to power up, Hulk tears into it and pleads for his friend to stay. While attempting to stop Hulk from destroying the ship, Thor ends up playing the video message from Natasha sent out to Hulk when he first left Earth, and the video causes Hulk to lose control of his emotions, and although he fights hard to prevent it, he transforms back into Banner for the first time in 2 years. With his champion missing, the Grandmaster calls upon Valkyrie and Loki to search for him and Thor. After the Battle of New York in 2012, Loki had somewhat redeemed himself in the eyes of Thor during a battle between Asgard and the Dark Elves in 2013, where he seemingly sacrificed himself to save his brother. But this turned out to be another of his deceptions, and he spent the next 4 years impersonating Odin, who he casted a spell on and banished to Earth, and he ruled as King of Asgard until Thor returned home and deduced his true identity. They were both banished by Hela and sent through separate wormholes to Sakaar, but instead of working together with his brother, Loki instead decided to try and gain the favor of the Grandmaster. Loki suspects Valkyrie aided Hulk and Thor in their escape though, so he attacks her and eventually learns she's a Valkyrie. So he forces her to relive the memory of her fellow soldiers being killed by Hela, and reliving the memory ends up being the deciding factor in her agreeing to help Thor, who she brings a captured Loki to as a peace offering. Loki eventually ends up joining the team as well, thanks to him having gained possession of the access codes to the Grandmaster's garage containing his ships, and after a successful aerial battle against the Grandmaster, they managed to make it to Asgard. Upon arriving on Asgard, the group labeled the Avengers by Thor attempt to battle Hela and her army of undead Asgardian soldiers that she had revived using the Eternal Flame, although Banner once again stays behind with the fear that if he transforms into the Hulk again, he'll never be able to return to his human form. But after Hela's giant Asgardian wolf Fenris threatens to kill the citizens of Asgard, Banner decides to transform into Hulk anyway, and fights off the creature. The group's combined powers are still not enough to stop Hela though, so Thor sends Loki to Odin's vault to join the fire demon Surtur's crown with the Eternal Flame. Thor had captured Surtur's crown earlier, just before returning to Asgard after learning that Surtur was planning to join his crown with the Eternal Flame and initiate Ragnarok. But it now appears the destruction of Asgard is the only way to defeat Hela, so the heroes and the people of Asgard escape the planet and begin their journey through space for a new home as Surtur initiates Ragnarok and destroys Asgard, killing Hela in the process. But as they travel, a giant spaceship appears before attacking them, and the ship is soon revealed to be that of the Mad Titan Thanos, one of the galaxy's most powerful beings, backed by his army of followers known as the Black Order, on a quest to collect the 6 Infinity Stones, with the objective of using them to bring stability to the universe while wiping out half of all life, as he believes its massive population would inevitably cause it to perish. Having already gained possession of the Power Stone, Thanos has arrived to collect the Tesseract containing the Space Stone, which had been stolen from Odin's vault by Loki, moments before he joined Surtur's crown with the Eternal Flame. But before he can do so, he's attacked by Hulk, who initially has control in the fight, but the momentum quickly shifts and Thanos incapacitates him in quick and shocking fashion. Seeing few options before him, Heimdall, Asgard's powerful gatekeeper, channels dark energy to summon Hulk to Earth so he can inform the others of the coming conflict, prompting Thanos to stab Heimdall through the heart before gaining possession of the Space Stone, killing Loki, and exiting as their spaceship explodes. Hulk, meanwhile, is sent crashing through the ceiling of the Sanctum Sanctorum, the personal residence of Dr. Stephen Strange, a master of the mystic arts and defender of Earth against any mystical threats. Hulk then transforms back into Banner, who informs Strange and Wong, another powerful sorcerer, that Thanos is coming. At Banner's request, Strange finds Tony Stark and brings him to the Sanctum, where he explains to him and Banner what the Infinity Stones are. And it turns out 2 of the stones are already currently on Earth, those being the Time Stone in the possession of Strange, and the Mind Stone, which is still bound with the body of Vision. So they plan to find Vision and help prevent Thanos from retrieving the Mind Stone, but before they can, they're attacked by 2 of the children of Thanos, Ebony Maw and Cull Obsidian. Banner attempts to transform into the Hulk to help battle them, but Hulk refuses to come out, so Strange transports him out of harm's way through a portal, while he, Stark, and Wong fight them off, with the fight eventually traveling onto their spaceship and into space. With him being stuck on Earth, Banner reunites with the rest of the Avengers, as well as meeting the team's newest members, and together, they make their way to the Kingdom of Wakanda, one of the most technologically advanced nations on Earth, hoping to protect a wounded Vision who had sustained a severe injury following an attack from another of the children of Thanos, Corvus Glaive. Not too long after arriving at Wakanda, the heroes are met by a portion of the Black Order, so they engage in what's later dubbed the Battle of Wakanda, while Wakandan scientists attempt to remove the stone from Vision's head without killing him, but once again Hulk refuses to come out to help in the battle, so Banner instead gets in on the action by wearing Tony's Hulkbuster armor. But eventually Thanos does arrive on Earth after having collected the other 5 stones while in space, which he now uses to easily take out the heroes as he makes his way towards Vision, who he kills to collect the final Infinity Stone. And now, with the power of the 6 stones, Thanos does indeed wipe out half of all life, including about half of the Avengers, with a single snap of his fingers before escaping from Earth. 3 weeks after the snap, Banner, along with the remaining Avengers, find Thanos in retirement on a faraway planet, and after learning he had used the stones to destroy the stones, Thor beheads him. Over the next 18 months, Banner spends his time in the Gamma Lab to fix whatever's going on between him and the Hulk, and he eventually finds a solution and becomes half Banner and half Hulk, all in one form. Eventually, in 2023, the Avengers manage to figure out a way to travel through time and collect the Infinity Stones from past timelines that they'll hopefully be able to use to bring back everyone that was lost. So the group splits up into separate groups and travels to the stones locations from different points in time, with Hulk traveling with Iron Man, Cap, and Ant-Man back to 2012 to collect the Time and Space Stones, Thor and Rocket Raccoon traveling to 2013 to collect the Reality Stone, and Nebula, War Machine, Hawkeye, and Black Widow traveling to 2014 to collect the Power and Soul Stones. Clint and Natasha then split from Nebula and Rhodey to collect the Soul Stone on the planet Vormir, where they're met by the Red Skull, the keeper of the Soul Stone, who informs them that in order to gain possession of the Soul Stone, you must sacrifice the soul of that which you love. And with them being the closest friend either of them has ever had, it's going to have to be one of their souls being sacrificed. So they each attempt to sacrifice themselves for the other, but they continue to thwart one another's attempts until Natasha hooks and traps Clint on the cliff and allows herself to fall to her death. The rest of the Avengers then return to their timeline with the other 5 stones, and after realizing Nat didn't make it back, they collectively mourn her death, which prompts Hulk to offer to put on the Infinity Gauntlet, claiming he's the only one that can handle the stone's gamma signature. So he does and manages to snap his fingers and successfully bring back everyone lost in the blip, severely injuring his arm in the process. He confesses to having tried to bring Natasha back with the snap as well, but her death still couldn't be undone. Just then, a 2014 variant of Thanos that had learned of their plans arrives with his army and a huge battle ensues, with it eventually coming to an end when Iron Man uses the power of the stones and sacrifices himself to wipe out Thanos and his army. And that was everything you need to know before watching She-Hulk Attorney at Law. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel, and let us know in the comments what your expectations for the new series are. If you want to see more Marvel content like this, click the second link in the description for our Marvel playlist. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll talk to you again soon.